Hello, everybody. What's up? It's been a while. Moses here. As you guys know, I'm back to streaming, and with season 4 coming, I've been asked a lot about my current PTR wizard, and like what build I'm using, what gear I have, what Canai's cube power I have on my gear, and all that stuff. So I decided I'm going to reactivate my YouTube video channel and come up with this, yeah, wizard thingy guide, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, let's get started. So they revamped the Archon set. They added 2 extra pieces, and that's gonna go live with season 4. Um, and they also changed the Shantottos. So let's go over the Archon set now. Instead of 4 pieces, you have 6. And the second set bonus will give you the effect of every rune. The 4 set bonus also increases your attack speed and armor and resistance by 1% for each Archon ability attacks that you're making with your wizard, right? So, yeah. And the 6 set piece will also give you stacks, Archon stacks, when you using your abilities. So, yeah, the 4 set modifies the stacks, and the 6 piece also gives you that the abilities gives you the Archon abilities gives you more stacks. Um, yeah, so over here these are like my boots. People asked to see the gear. This is the Archon pants. I'm missing life per kill. This is like very important recovery or healing stat that we need on the gear, but not everything's perfect. That's the helm. 6 crit, int vit. All of these parts are ancient. That's the chest I found yesterday. The one with life per kill. That's actually quite good. Very good chest with the reduced damage from range attacks and the reduced damage from elites. These are my gloves. Now they could be better, but I couldn't find similar ones with like that rolled ancient. But these are pretty good as they are. These are the shoulders. I got cooldown reduction. 15% life gives me more give me more HP. I tested that compared to like 500 vitality. So 15% life here is the preferred roll. Yeah. And okay, so when it comes to the jewelry, I got the convention of elements with crit, reduced cooldown, and a socket. Over here I got the halo ring. Now this ring is absolutely amazing for both offensive and defensive roles. The defensive wise, of course, every time um, every time you take damage from enemies, 10% of your HP, you will proc Frost Nova, right? So that will freeze enemies around you. And also, Ice Armor now reduces melee damage um, by 69 by 59%. That's my roll, but it rolls between 50 to 60. So that's actually quite amazing. um, when it comes to like the preferred stats on this ring, you would want exactly what you have here to be over here, so which is crit, cooldown reduction, and a socket. But of course, nothing's perfect, right? Even with the PTR's insane magic find bonus, it's really super hard to fish for those specific rolls on these perfectly rolled items. So yeah. When it comes to the amulet, these are the rolls that you want. I'm currently running with an arcane rune on my Archon, right? So my Archon damage deals arcane, but ideally you would want lightning, and we'll talk about that later. Ancient Parthan defenders, these give great synergy with the Halo ring, because like whenever enemies are stunned, aka frozen, you'll get damage reduction by 12% for each enemy stunned around you within 25 yards. So that's a pretty big toughness boost, damage reduction. Pretty cool stuff. Why didn't I go through? Of course, weapon offhand and the belt. Now the belt is a new belt that they implemented on seasons. That's the Fazula's Improbable Chain. This will automatically start you with 20 Archon stacks as soon as you pop Archon. Right? That's pretty cool. Alright. So you got 20, basically after you get the 6-piece set, you get 20% increased attack speed, 20% armor, and 20% all resists, which is super cool. Gives you a nice initial boost to your all stats, pretty much. Must-have belt for the set. Now, what I love about this set is like the fact that it kind of gains momentum over time. We're gonna go through that. But now I want to talk about like the new Shantottos. The new Shantottos set, they completely changed it. Now it synergizes perfectly with Archon, and this is going to be, if you're going for an Archon Wizard, this is going to be the weapon of choice and the offhand of choice. So you're going to have to use these set weapon and offhand. What it does right now, every second in Archon form, you will expel a wave of destruction dealing 350% to enemies within 30 yards. Now, when you're not in Archon form, and the second set bonus, when you're not in Archon form and you use a damage dealer, a spender, you will stack these 350% wave of destruction damage, and it stacks up to 20 times. So basically, this is the little Shantotto's Resolve icon. Whenever you're dealing damage to enemies, you will see this number goes up, and it stacks up to 20 times. And when it's at 20, that's when you would want to pop your Archon, because every second while in Archon form, this little wave of destruction will deal 7,000% weapon damage to your enemies all around you. Now the damage type will be the damage type of the rune that you chose for the Archon, right? So if you're, right now I'm using Arcane, so I got Arcane as a wave of destruction around me, right? Because I'm using the improved Archon rune. Ideally, like I said, you would want to use Lightning, but we'll talk a little bit about that a little later. When it comes to the new item they introduced, I'm not going to go through that. I bet you watched, know exactly what the Canai's Cube does. If you don't, you're invited to join the stream and I'll explain you exactly how it works. But in the Canai's Cube, I got the weapons powers of the Furnace, the armor powers of the Swami. Now, Furnace is self-explanatory, increased damage against elites. The Swami, bonus from Archon, now lasts 20 seconds after Archon expires, which is like absolutely amazing. We're going to talk about that. And Obsidian Ring of the Zodiac to simply reduce cooldown of the skill by 1 second whenever I'm hitting enemies with a spender, resource spending attack. Now, this goes hand in hand with stacking Shantottos. So you'll see pretty much about the time that I have. Currently I'm running with 53.86% cooldown reduction. So, and since I'm using all Archon runes, because the second set bonus, I have 100 seconds of Archon cooldown, not 120 as it says on the tooltip. So you'll see that like there's almost a perfect sync between the time that I have 20 stacks and the time that I have Archon up again. Okay, now that's like what usually happens. Yeah, that was like about the gear. Pretty much all that I had to say about that. You can always add cooldown reduction, but I find like that around 50% is like the sweet spot. On my offhand, I have resource cost reduction. Some people chose Arcane Power on crit, so that like there's a different variety of the build. We're going to talk about it, but like personally, I don't think that Arcane Power on Crit is a good roll over here, um, because most of the majority of the time you'll be spending time in like Archon form. It will only take couple, maybe 5 or 6 seconds to stack and reset your Archon cooldown, and then you'll pop it again. And most of the time, like 80-85% of the time, you'll be in Archon form. And Arcane Power and Crit is a primary stat roll, and like you'll have to give up here either Vitality or cooldown reduction, or a very very important roll that you want, maybe even area damage, something you might want to consider if you're pushing like super hard and every little bit of damage um, counts. You might want to even add area damage on your offhand. So um, yeah, Arcane Power and Crit not recommended on any parts of the set. When it comes to the weapon, what I think you would want, like ideally, is cooldown reduction instead of attack speed. Extremely high roll of average damage, which I didn't get, but like 10% increased damage. Again, if you're playing solo, you might want another one that will have cooldown reduction, um, life per hit, because like life per hit is like extremely good on the weapon, especially since you're gaining a lot of attack speed, and that keeps you alive, like simply put, and it's extremely good for solo and for survivability, pushing solo for greater rifts. But if you're playing in a group, which I believe like most of you guys will be playing, um, you'll probably have like a support monk or support barb that will keep you alive, and then survivability won't be the top of your concerns, because you'll have a lot of toughness from the barbarians, ignore pain or whatever, and yeah, you'll be able to put every little bit here on damage. So you would want cooldown reduction instead of the attack speed, 10% damage, and extremely high roll of like average damage, and of course it's going to be an ancient, hopefully, as soon as possible. So yeah, that's about that. When it comes to the gems, pain enhancer is pretty good. I personally would like to know, if you guys know. Personally, I don't know how important it is to level this gem past 25, because like we're mostly using it um, for the frenzy effect. Like for each enemy around you, you gain 3% attack speed. Attack speed is extremely important for this build. You don't need it on your gear, but you're getting it from your Archon stacks. So yeah, personally I leveled it up to like 49 or whatever, but I'm not so sure that the bleed damage actually does too much. I would love to hear uh, about it from you guys on the comments. So if you know more about this topic than me, would love to know. But we are using this gem because it synergizes extremely well with the set. It will cause enemies to bleed, and for each bleeding enemy you get 3% attack speed, which of course synergizes extremely well with the set, because you're going to be able to left click on enemies, get more attack speed, and yeah. For the second gem Halo of Arlis, I have the Bane of the Trapped. Um, really self-explanatory. Probably the best gem in the game. It procs itself. Flat damage increase 31.5, and of course you can level it up even higher. And here I got Bane of the Stricken. Bane of the Stricken is a gem that is introduced in the PTR, and it's going to be in Season 4. This gem will increase the second property, increase damage against bosses and Rift Guardian by 25%, and each attack against an enemy increase the damage it takes from you by percent point something. It starts with 0.8 and it levels up as it goes, and this stacks and stacks like infinitely. So pretty much your your damage output towards a Rift Guardian in the later stages of like Rift Guardian, like greater of 60 plus, um, is going to be like extremely crazy, because like you're going to start with a certain amount of damage, and with each attack you're going to increase the damage against the target, and yeah, it's infinite. So 1% might sound a little low, but as you're commencing more and more attacks, that bonus damage continues to increase, and that is actually an amazing gem. an amazing gem. Not just because you'll be doing more damage to Rift Guardians, but it's also sort of a way of Blizzard to like balance the game without balancing the game. Because like everybody knows that like we have huge numbers right now, and I guess they realized that fighting one Rift Guardian for like 8 minutes or 7 minutes or like crazy amount of time like that in a Rift, is like very very boring to begin with, very excruciating, and like super annoying. So they came up with this gem, and that like instantly solved this problem. Instead of like fighting Rift Guardian for 8 or 7 or 5 minutes, which is like very very big part of the Rift, now you'll be able to fight them for 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes, like. And now I'm talking about like the end game bosses, and most of the bosses will go down under a minute and a half, 2 minutes. So very very short period of time in comparison to what it used to be. This is very very amazing, awesome gym. Yeah. Um, let's see. Let's talk about the actual build. Um, yeah. So the actual build, I got when it comes to buffs, I got the ice armor crystallize. Let's start with that. Very very like probably the best. I've been running with Ice Armor Crystallized way before like everyone else started. I always thought that the 12% that the increased armor by 20% times 3, which is like 60% increased armor, is extremely good. I always used to run with that, and damage reduction from melee by 12%. This armor has always been my like perfect um, armor of choice, but with like this patch even more, because of the synergy between the Halo ring and the Ancient Parthan defenders that we talked about earlier. So ice armor with crystallized rune, teleport safe passage. Of course, if you're running, if you're doing bounties or if you're doing greater rifts, it's like possible to change like everything. But like I'm talking about like going for greater rifts and like um, plowing through like hard content for your wizard. You'll need the safe passage for the damage reduction. Archon. Currently, I'm using the improved Archon rune, which just because like it's arcane doesn't matter. I could have used just the same. The teleport doesn't matter. I just need the arcane type damage rune on my gear, on my skill bar. Magic weapon with deflection, really, because there's not much of a better choice. It does give you some shield. It's kind of nice whenever you attack. You get a protective shield and they stack. It's kind of cool. Um, but mostly because there's not much anything I could put here that would increase my damage in the Archon form that I could think of. So a little bit of shield, slight increase in damage. It's additive, so it's not multiplicative by 10%. The magic weapon bonus. So it's pretty cool, but not much more than that. When it comes to the Frost Nova, a Frost Nova you don't actually use to freeze enemies. Has long cooldown and everything. And when you're spending resource, if you pop Frost Nova, it will eat your Archon cooldown reduction from the Ring of the Zodiac, and it will go into the Deep Freeze Frost Nova. And it's not something you want to do. You basically leave it on your bar because the Halo ring, when it procs the Frost Nova, it will choose the rune that you choose. So if you put something else over here, like Diamond Skin, let's say, I don't know, any other skill, it will choose Frost Nova without a rune. So it will just like freeze enemies. But since you're not going to do that, you're going to use Deep Freeze. This will also give you 10% increased critical hit chance for 11 seconds if Frost Nova hits 5 or more enemies. And this will also be active in your Archon form, so pretty much constantly throughout the Rift, other than the time that you're fighting like the Rift Guardian, you'll have 5 or more enemies, which means you'll have 10% increased crit chance, which is super cool. So there's that. And yeah, we got the Snowbound. Snowbound basically could be anything else, but you do need a spender. And I choose Snowbound because it's cheap. um, and I never run out of arcane power. Now, yeah. So we talked about pretty much everything, but I want to touch the Swami. The Swami is power, legendary power in my Canai's cube. It's a helm, it's a wizard's hat. What it does is that it makes the Archon stack bonus last 20 seconds after the Archon expire. So basically what I talked about before, that this build gains momentum. At first, before you have Archon stacks, your character will be squishy, you won't be doing a lot of damage, and you'll be vulnerable. But once Archon expires, since each Archon stacks gives you 1% armor and all resist and attack speed, armor and all resist will keep you alive, and the attack speed will make you able to spam faster Blizzard Snowbound, which means you will get your 20 Shantotto stacks and you'll get your cooldown reduction Archon much faster than the first time that you started. Right now I'm entering an area, right? I'm gonna show. Entering an area, it will take me a couple of seconds. Like, it's not gonna be, see like the stacks over here, it's like 5, 7, 8. The more you spam it, you can pop safe passage for the damage reduction, and bam. Now that I have 20, I can start with my Archon. And I can just like teleport around. This will do 7,000% weapon damage to enemies. Whipping Hollow, hello? Monsters? What? Alright. So you can see it crits for, just like this, crits for 2 billion, 2.5 billion, 1 point. It's pretty strong, and I'm not even using my Archon ability. Now I have 20 seconds in which I will stack my Shantottos again, and as you can see, it's much faster. And we got the 20, and we got Archon cooldown again. So that's basically how the build works. Electrified is extremely dangerous because you're melee, so lightning is going to be kind of a problem. Oh my god, I procced. Oh no. Please don't rip in the video, Moses, please, no. This is only Torment 10, but like, yeah. Torment 10 or Torment like whatever, or Greater Rift 70. Arcane, like Archon wizards, you have to be in melee range, and electrified does hurt. So yeah, as you guys see, this set is doing like a lot of damage, right? And you can see my stacks right now. It's on 69, and they're going to last an overlap in the second cycle of Archon. And when you're in the second cycle of Archon and you're overlapping, that's when you'll do the most damage and you'll be the least vulnerable, because you're going to have double stacks of Archon, one from your previous and one from your current Archon form. Of course, whenever there's like high density, this build is a lot more effective. So when there's high density, bam. Yeah. So when there's like when there's high density, it's extremely powerful. When the density is kind of low, that's not going to be the case. You're going to have hard time. Building up your Archon stacks, because there are less enemies, so you'll have less Archon stacks, and if you have less Archon stacks, then you have less armor and all resist, so you'll be more vulnerable. And if that's the case, you're going to like do less damage. So yeah, altogether this build is extremely powerful, and I believe that it is underestimated. And I think that actually wizards will be able to do a lot in group in season 4. Everybody's talking about monks and barbarians, and even I was almost considering starting a monk or a barb to be able to farm experience efficiently, and but no, I decided when season 4 starts, I'm gonna start a wizard, and hopefully we'll be able to put it at the top of the 4-man leaderboard by the end of the season. That's that's the greatest achievement of them all. So yeah, that's gonna be awesome. So yeah, I think I pretty much covered it all. When it comes to the passive, oh, I did not talk about passives. Basically, since you're in melee range, Audacity, you're constantly in melee range, so Audacity, good stuff. Always, always good. Unstable anomaly for that extra survivability, extra life. They changed it, so now that instead of dying, you'll get a shield equal to 400% of your max life for 5 seconds. So, yeah. Um, yeah. 400%, that's like 2800, 28 million HP, or 2.8 million HP, excuse me. So, 2.9. And that's a lot. So that's going to be the shield. So before you die, you're going to have a huge buffer of HP, and hopefully that can save you. Blur for the damage reduction, evocation for the cooldown reduction. As you can see, Wizard's passive are extremely boring and kind of like elementary, nothing too sophisticated, but what can you do? These are the passives that we have, and I chose the best for the current build, and these are going to be pretty much mandatory. Um, when it comes to Hellfire amulets, I talked about it a little bit on stream. I'd like to just mention it in this video. Hellfire amulet, in my opinion, is not that worth, even though they buffed the Hellfire amulet now, like the whole Hellfire quest, instead of uh, instead of grinding pieces or keys or whatever. The key warden just drop machines now. They have a chance of dropping an entire machine. So you can do Act 1, 2, 3, and 4, and you got 4 machines, hopefully. So you can just jump in after one run if you're lucky. If you run in with 4 people, everybody has a chance to drop a key. The chance is different, and yeah. And not only that, now Hellfire Amulet comes with a guaranteed socket. So you only need to roll 2 good rolls on your Hellfire Amulet. Like, disregarding the passive, obviously you'd want a good passive for you. So you get the sockets, and you need 2 good rolls, which is crit chance crit damage, crit chance elemental damage, or elemental damage crit damage. So you'll need 2 of these rolls, so you'll be able to roll the third, which is probably going to be the intelligence into the third one that you need, because you need socket, crit, crit, and elemental damage. And that's like top 3 rolls on an amulet. That hasn't changed in this season, but since like, even though they did change it and make it easier, so that like guardians or key wardens now drop, they don't drop any more keys, they just drop the machines. And even though it's easier to craft, for the wizard, I don't recommend spending any time. It's pretty much going to be a waste of time, because amulets drop. You can, you can even re-roll amulets with the cube. Let's say you want the lightning immunity amulet, you can now re-roll that amulet in the cube and hope for a better roll. This is something that I believe I will do myself. But like, wasting time on an amulet, like, if you have a good amulet like this, if you find a decent, good amulet, not necessarily with these really, really good rolls, but similar, this amulet is going to be good enough. And I personally don't recommend the waste of time doing Ubers, because simply, for if you're going for this build and that's like your main season 4 build, like, what other passive can I use here that will improve my wizard's performances? I don't think there is one. Sure, it would be nice to have extra 5% damage from elemental exposure. It's nice. Sure, it could be nice to get like the movement speed bonus from teleport, and like, whenever you're taking some damage, reset on your teleport. Sure, it would be nice to have maybe dominance for an extra shield, but will these passives significantly change the way your wizard operates in Greater Rifts? Like, will this passive make or break? Will I be making this Greater Rift 63, or will I fail this Greater Rift 63 because of this passive? I don't think so. because like these passives are not powerful. The wizards pretty much have only 4 passives that you need, like crucial for the build. One is big. The cooldown reduction is big. It's a cooldown reduction based build, so you'll need the cooldown reduction here, the damage reduction, survivability, and more damage. So yeah, these are extremely important, but when it and significant. Like, if I were to lose one of these passives, that would significantly impact my ability to run a certain rift, significantly. But in all of the rest of the passives, they don't really matter. They're kind of useless for the build, and that's kind of sad. It would be really nice to have like another passive that would be, worth grinding. And you know how much I like to grind these Ubers. Um, it would be really nice to have a passive that would be make it worth grinding Ubers, but no, that's not the case for us wizards. If you're playing a different class, I don't know, it might be worthwhile for you. But if you're playing a wizard, I wouldn't recommend wasting too much time on that. Maybe to do it for the fun if you haven't done it before and all that. It's a small adventure in the afternoon. But doing it for the grind and getting a perfect Hellfire amulet roll, no, don't even try, because like you'll need at least dozens and dozens of them, if not hundreds of those tries, and it will take you a long time, which you could be using leveling up your legendary gems, which will actually impact your wizard's performances much greater, or just getting XP and Paragon points. Okay, so I think you get it now, and this is the ultimate Archon build, 2.3, and I hope to see all you guys in season 4. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye for now.